What's up, Dubai? This is phenomenal. Give it up for Dariush. This is amazing. Thank you all. Please sit. Listen, I don't know if you guys know who I am. My name is Brad Lee. I am an American with 4 wives and 7 kids. So I belong here. Inshallah, I can come back more often. If you guys follow me on social media, you know my style. My style is just to tell the truth, keep it real. I mean, it's like poetry. Not everybody likes it. But at the end of the day, I feel like, when you can cut through the chaos and give clarity, that's when the biggest impact takes place. So what I want to do is kind of just go back in my life a little bit and share with you what's worked for me, because I know deep down that it'll work for other people. And ultimately, the first thing I always point out is being able to recognize opportunity. There's a lot of people in the world that live in scarcity and they live in negativity and they constantly think negatively of themselves. I remember one time, I think it was November 1976, we were driving to the mall in my dad's car. Now, this was back when times were good. You didn't have to wear a seatbelt. It was beautiful. Only men had balls. It was an unbelievable time to be alive, and I was free. And we're driving to the mall, and my dad sees this big crowd at a hotel. And so he pulls over, and he rolls the window down, and he asks everybody, what's going on? They said, well, Elvis Presley's here. Now, Elvis Presley, for some of you younger folks, he's like Justin Bieber, but older. He was very famous. And so my dad looked back and he said, do you want to meet Elvis? And I said, well, sure, I want to meet Elvis. So we get out of the car, we walk in, and there was a crowd about this size standing there, and there was guards in red velvet ropes, and everybody was being stopped. And my dad had me by the hand, and he goes, oh, I guess we can't meet him. And I said, well, why is that? And they said, well, look, they're stopping us. And when I looked over as a little kid, I didn't see the guards and the ropes. All I saw were openings between the legs and exactly where I wanted to go. And so I let go of his hand and I took off through the sea of butts, passed right through there, underneath the rope, right past the security guards, right up to the double doors. And Elvis walked out. And he looked at me and he said, how you doing, little man? Patted me on the head and walked off. And I look back at the crowd and they're freaking out. I guess his coolness transferred to me. So now everybody wanted to meet the kid that just got touched by Elvis. And I thought to myself, what was the difference? And this is obviously in retrospect. When I was a kid, I wasn't thinking shit. But ultimately, I was sitting there looking and I'm like, man, everybody else saw people being stopped. Everybody else saw the obstacles, and I saw the opportunity. So folks, remember this, especially in Dubai. This beautiful place is unbelievable. There's so much opportunity, but you have to recognize it. So many people are focused on the problem rather than the solutions. Too many people are focused on the challenge and the roadblock rather than the freaking opportunity. So make sure that every day you guys wake up, you recognize the opportunity that's all around here. And I'm not sure how many people know what opportunity looks like, but usually it looks like risk. It looks like trouble. It looks like what most people run from. Well, I don't know if I was broken or what it was, but I just kept looking for it. It didn't bother me. It doesn't scare me to lose. And I think that's why they were talking about rolling the dice, because I'm willing to roll the dice and I'm lucky as hell. So when you put those two together, you tend to win. Now, I shouldn't have won anything. And quite frankly, if I'm being honest, I don't believe that I've won anything yet. Okay, I'm still on the journey. I'm still learning. But the first thing that I look back on and I think to myself, man, what could I share that would make an impact for other people? And that is 100% to make sure that you guys always focus on the opportunity. There's opportunity all around you guys. Now, one of my advantages is when I wake up in the morning, I have tricked my brain into believing and understanding how valuable it is simply to be alive. Most people wake up and their energy immediately goes to fear, doubt, worry, anxiety. And so your energy goes there. And it's all about energy. When you walk into a room, do you brighten the room or do you darken the room? Do you suck that energy out or do you bring that energy with you? Because again, it's a frequency that you cannot feel or describe, but you can just tell. Have you ever looked at somebody and wondered, something's off about that person? You look at somebody, you can see that they're depressed. You can see that they're fearful or doubtful. That's an energy. We all have it. I say your frequency is what you frequently see. So if you constantly wake up and focus on the doubt, focus on the worry, it doesn't work. So what I did, and again, I'm just going to tell you what I did throughout my life that I think made a difference looking back. And one of the things I did is I put a sign on my wall that said, "Congratulations, you get another day." And every time I woke up and I started to think about rent and car payments and child support and everything else I had to pay that I did not have money for, I would just look at that sign and realize how lucky I am to be alive. And I started to just focus on that every single day, and that shifted my perspective from scarcity and fear and anxiety over to abundance and opportunity. And I don't know if you guys know, but I'll put it like this. If I just gave everybody in the room, let's say $1 million, how would that make you feel? Let's hear it. What would you do, honestly, if I just handed you $1 million cash? Okay, let me ask you this. Would you take the $1 million if I said you can't wake up tomorrow? So then how come we don't act the same every day? How come we don't have that same mindset waking up in the morning? It's unbelievable when you think about how valuable just the gift of waking up is. So that's my advantage. I wake up with what I call $1 million mindset. And so every single day you guys wake up, thank God that you get another day. You can't get anything more valuable than the gift you got the second you woke up. Think about that. And then you'll find it much more difficult to start worrying about the past or worrying about the future. Because there's 3 things you want to focus on if you really want to crush it in life. And these 3 things are very simple. A lot of this stuff that you'll hear is simple. They've got us convinced that life is hard for some reason. Who's heard life is hard? When in reality, life is really not that difficult. Take it from me. Okay, I probably shouldn't be where I am, but I just bucked the system. I just stopped believing the nonsense. So I've got $1 million morning, and the 3 things you got to focus on are your mindset, your skill set, and your habits. All you got to do is look at those 3 areas. If you cannot master those 3 areas, you're going to have a problem. If you really want to crush it in life, focus on your mindset, focus on your skill set, and focus on your habits. Your mindset will stop you from developing your skill set. Because let's face it, the best people in the world at anything they do are the ones that make all the money. They're the ones that crush it in life. It's because they're the best at what they do. In order to get the top of your game, you have to crush it. You have to practice. You have to drill. You have to rehearse. You can't just wake up and magically be better. So I started focusing on my skills from a very early age. I didn't even realize the skill that I was working on the most, and I think it's one of the most valuable skills you can possess, and that is the ability to sell, close, and persuade people. If you guys want to crush it in business, develop and master the ability to sell, close, and persuade. When I was 6 years old, I was in first grade. They gave me chocolate candy to go sell. Well, I brought it home. My brothers ate half the box the second I got there. So I was already in debt. So I decided to go around knocking on doors and seeing if I could sell a few candy bars. So I walk up to the first door, I knock on the door, and I say, "Hey, you want to buy a candy bar?" And they said, "No." I said, "Well, that didn't work out too well." So I went to the next door and I knocked on the door and I said, "Hey, let me ask you a question. Do you know the phone number to a good roof repairman?" And they said, "What?" And I said, "Because when you taste one of these, you're going to go through the roof." He said, "I'll take the whole box." So I started to realize, man, sales is where it's at. I started to be a little bit entrepreneurial. On the way to school, I'd stop and buy bubble gum. It was 20 cents a pack. I'd buy 5 packs for $1, go sell it for $0.25 a piece, because of obviously the supply and demand that you get kicked in, and I started to make a little money. But I forgot, because my whole family was blue collar, hard-working, blue collar, low income mindset. Guys, it was their mindset. And they tried to put that mindset on me, and I almost fell for it. They told me, hey, go get a real job. And I said, yeah, but man, I can sell. They said, listen, go get a real job. You got to get a real job. You got to work hard. You got to save your money. You got to put it away. That's what we all did. That's what you need to do if you want to be real. I said, fine. So I went and got a job. I applied at the U.S. Forest Service, where I basically was, I thought, putting out fires. So I'm running around town thinking I'm cool because I'm a firefighter. And I'm going to go up in the mountains. I pictured myself with a flannel shirt and like an axe over my shoulder and a wolf by my side, out there saving eagle eggs. And I got there, and that wasn't the deal. They basically had me pick up this 50-pound bag of water, this rubber backpack. It was called a piss bag. So I thought I was going to be a hero, and I ended up becoming a piss bag operator. And so they wanted me to go squirt the stumps that were still smoldering. And so I'm going up and down these mountains. It was miserable, and I'm squirting on these stumps. And after a day or two, I developed a little poison oak right here. And I said, hey, look, I got poison oak. I'm not going to be able to come in for a couple weeks. And the guy opened up his shirt, and he was covered in poison oak. And he said, that's just part of the job. And I said, excuse me? He said, that's part of the job. Now get out there and go to work. So obviously, instantly I quit. I said, this is not for me. I'm not doing this. So I quit the job. I woke up the next day knowing that I had to have a job. So I opened up the newspaper and I saw an ad for selling cars. And I said, that's me. I'm a sales guy. So I walked in there. And within 2 days, I think it was, they told me, go pick out a car. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, you get a car to drive. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, dude, it's called a demo. You get to drive a car when you're selling cars here. Now, this was Williams Wilson Pontiac Volkswagen. I was about an 18-year-old kid, and there's a whole row of Trans Ams. Everybody remember Trans Ams? Dude, I'm telling you right now, man, the Trans Am, are you kidding me? I'm thinking, dude, these guys want me to have poison oak. These guys want me to have a Trans Am. So I went out and I picked the Trans Am and I started driving it around, and I started making like $6,000 to $8,000 a month my first month out, and I crushed everybody in my family. That was more money than anybody made in my entire family selling cars, and that's when I knew sales is where it's at. And there's a lot of people that right now think in their mind that they're not really in sales, when in reality, you're in sales. No matter what you do in life, you're in sales, okay? A lot of you have been selling yourself short your entire life. And your limited belief has got you sold on you can't make it because of this reason or that reason, when in truth, everybody here has all the opportunity in the world. God gave you all of the ability you need. All you have to do is recognize opportunity and be willing to take it. That's ultimately all I did. Now, at 16 years old, my dad kicked me out because I forgot to mow the lawn. And when I got home, he said, didn't I tell you to mow the lawn? I said, yeah. He said, well, it's not mowed. And I said, yeah, I forgot. And he said, I think you better hit the road. So I packed my bags and I left, never to return, by the way. People were like, oh, that was the best thing in the whole wide world. Now, keep in mind, I was a 16-year-old kid that didn't give a rat's ass about not having parental supervision. All my other friends graduated high school and went off to college. I, of course, made the great decision to drop out of high school. But now I've got 2 PhDs, 4 MBAs, and probably 16 associate degrees. They work for me. So just remember, you don't necessarily need a degree if you can hire one. Yeah? So I learned sales at a very, 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 very early age, thank God. And I started to master those skills. And the three things I told you to figure out: mindset, skill set, habits. You can have the mindset, you can be positive, you can be happy, but it is possible to run in the wrong direction all positively. So you got to make sure that when you have that mindset and you work on that mindset over and over and over, you always go back to the key, which is your skill set. What are you good at? Now, right now in this day and age, you want to be good at sales. You want to be good at marketing. You want to be good at communication. You want to be good at building relationships. Because at the end of the day, let's be honest, it's all about relationships. A lot of people think my brand, The Real, is just the word real, because I keep it real and I try to stay real and keep it honest and be authentic. But the R is actually for relationships. Because if you're on your deathbed and you think to yourself what's important to you, I guarantee you money's not. Your relationships are going to be the most important thing. Every time you get close to a situation like that, you're going to focus on relationships. And the craziest part is relationships is where money comes from. If you think about every dollar you've ever received, you will realize that every single dollar came from a relationship of some kind. So if you want more money, you just need more relationships. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. Point blank, period. Just remember that. The more hands you shake, the more money you make. You want more money? Shake more hands, introduce yourself more, meet people. Now here's a word most people have never heard of. It's called allodoxophobia. Allodoxophobia is the fear of other people's opinion. How many of you guys think you're afflicted with that? A lot of you guys are lying. Okay, there's a lot of people that literally are stopped in their tracks because they're so worried about what everybody else thinks. The reason they're so worried about what somebody else thinks is because they're looking for validation from other people. And the reason they're looking for validation from other people is because they don't validate themselves from that social programming that we've received all our lives. So, and again, I'm speaking from experience. I used to do the exact same thing. So I developed 6 steps that helped me do the work inside, and that's what changes the outside world. See, so many people are looking out here for the answer when the answer, folks, is right here. The answer's inside of you. I always tell people, hey man, you want me to introduce you to somebody that can make you extremely rich? They're like, yeah, that'd be awesome. I say, okay, here's what you do. Go in the bathroom, make sure it's empty, close the door, and then look around. And you'll see them. And when you do, be extremely nice to that individual. Kiss his butt if you have to. Because if we think about it, who do we talk worst about? Ourselves. But it's us. So we can't really do anything about it. And I used to do it all the time. And I used to think with scarcity. I used to think with limited belief in myself, my abilities, opportunities. I used to do the exact same thing I'm talking about. So I developed 6 things over the time. It changed me. And I'm hoping it's going to change you guys or some of you that might need it. Because some of you guys, listen, if this doesn't fit, don't listen. But a lot of people are afflicted by this, and it blows my mind every single day how many people don't think they're worth more. Because I always say, if you want to increase your net worth, increase your self-worth, and your net worth will follow. Your self-worth is magnificently important to everything that you want to achieve in life, the beliefs that you have. So how do I do it? Number 1, first thing I did is I asked for forgiveness for everything that I have ever done in the past. I forgave myself for all of the mistakes, all of the downfalls. That's probably the hardest thing most of you will try to do is forgive yourself. Then secondly, I just said I'm going to commit to do what I say I'm going to do from this point forward. And by the way, guys, that's a decision. Some of you guys are already thinking, well, I don't know about that. Guys, it's a decision to do what you say you're going to do from this point forward. You can make that decision today. I mean, here we are at the Gladiator Summit. What a cool name, by the way, Dariush. What an unbelievable brand, Gladiator. Okay? But you have to commit like a gladiator committed. When you walked into that arena, man, it was kill or be killed. There was no other decision. And when you look up the word decide, it literally means to cut off any other option. So from this day forward, if you truly want to succeed, I want you to commit to yourself and to the world that you're going to do what you say you're going to do from this point forward. So that was step 2. I committed to do what I said I was going to do, and I started doing it every single day. Then I realized that confidence was just the memory of winning. If you win consistently, you get confident at whatever it is you're doing. Whether it's chess, whether it's sport, whatever the case is, if you're extremely confident in a certain area of your life, because a lot of us, we have confidence in certain areas, but not other areas. So how do we become confident overall, in general? This one made me think for a long time, like, how do I become a winner? If I need to win over and over and over so I can walk around feeling confident, what do I do? And I said, well, man, I got to win a lot. And then I started to ask myself, well, what's winning? And then it dawned on me, who gets to decide what winning looks like? You do. That's exactly right. He doesn't get to decide what winning looks like for you. You get to decide what winning looks like for you. So guess what I decided winning was? Brushing my teeth. How many people have celebrated brushing your teeth? I talked to some of you. You probably should have, but at the end of the day, brushing your teeth is a win. It's a big win. Trust me, especially when you're networking and you're doing business. Okay? Working out, eating right, hydrating. You see, I woke up in the morning and I started to realize I was extremely lucky to be alive. That shifted my mindset to abundance, and my frequency was the highest it could be, and then I kept it there all day long by winning. From the second I woke up, I had to start winning. So I brushed my teeth, win. Drank water, win. Went to the gym, win. And by the way, some people say, well, I can't afford a gym membership, Brad. Well, go like this. It's free. It's free. There's so many excuses stopping people from getting in shape and going to work and doing their thing. It's all your mindset. That's why it's so important to get your mindset in a great place. There has to be abundance. There has to be gratitude. Without that, everything goes to pot. Okay, so ultimately, I started winning on a regular basis, and I started lowering what I considered a win. Because I used to think if I wasn't making $1 million, I wasn't winning. My friend had a killer car. I didn't. I wasn't winning. Someone else had new shoes. I didn't. I wasn't winning. Now with social media, all you see is everybody with Ferraris and Lamborghinis, especially here. Like everybody told me, dude, people over there got billions. I said, bro, there's a few, I'm sure, but when I got here, I'm like, shit, everybody does have billions. The buildings here are amazing. Anyway, I'll get off on a tangent, so I want to stick to this. So I started winning on a regular basis. Okay, that's step 3. If you guys do this for 90 days, I guarantee it will literally change your life. It'll change your mindset. So I started winning, and I started racking up the wins. I call it step 3 is just rack up the wins. Just start winning every second you can. And remember, don't listen to what other people think a win is. You get to determine what a win is. So if you can't achieve it, lower it. Not many people will stand up here and tell you, lower your goals. But I will, because that's what I did. I stopped trying to reach so damn high, and I started just to win. Little wins make massive difference in your mindset. So ultimately, I started winning every day. I started waking up. I started being grateful. I got a morning routine I'll share with you too, but I started doing my morning routines. I started brushing my teeth. I started, everything that I could think of that was easy to do so I could win. And by noon, I was walking around like this. What's up? What's going on, man? How you doing? How you doing? Good. How you doing? Like I was winning all morning long, every single day, and I started to get more confident. It was amazing. And I'm like, this is crazy. But then step 4. Step 4, folks, is very important. Step 4 I call get rid of the idiots. Because there's going to be people, and you'll be surprised who they are, who want to bring you right back to where you were. They're going to say to you, who do you think you are? Why are you walking around like you're so cool? That's getting rid of the idiots. You got to get rid of the negativity. And they'll identify themselves, which is the crazy part. They'll identify themselves. All you have to do is start winning and start feeling like you deserve more. And you'll start walking a little taller and smiling a little more and just being a little bit more positive. And somebody is going to come up to you and start talking smack. And you'll see them and you'll hear them. And when you do, delete them. Get rid of them. Cut them out. That's step 4. Get rid of the idiots. Get rid of all negativity. Quit reading the headlines. Quit reading the negative press. Okay? Just start focusing on abundance and opportunity. I'll give you guys some books that I read as well that will help with that. But ultimately, step 4 is you got to get rid of the idiots, because they will come around and they will drag most of us back down into that state of depression, that state of disbelief. Step 5. So then what I started to do is I started to realize I didn't know what success even looked like. What do I want? What's important to me? To me. Not to all my friends, not to my family. To me, what's important to me? What do I consider successful? Because a lot of people ask me now that I'm successful, how to get there. What's the key? And I say, you know what? It's not a key. It's a combination. And everybody has their own. So you have to go get some solitude and ask yourself what does success look like, because how are you supposed to get there if you don't know what it is or you don't know what it looks like? And there's a lot of people that I'll say, what does success look like to you? And they go, let me think. That's because they never take the time to really focus on what it looks like. Folks, step 5 is to map out and visualize exactly what success looks like. Visualization works. There's scientific evidence of visualizing working. They had three teams playing basketball. They had one team shoot free throws, practice over and over shooting free throws. Boom. They had one team not practice. They had the third team think about practicing, visualizing shooting free throws. They were just visualizing. They didn't actually do it. And your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So they just kept thinking about practicing shooting free throws. When they measured the performance of these 3 teams, the one that practiced improved like 20-some%. The one that didn't practice obviously had no improvement. And the one that visualized had the same amount of improvement as the one that actually practiced. So folks, you need to map out and visualize exactly what success looks like. You can't just go through life wondering. That'd be like me standing out there saying, hey, can you go in there and find somebody for me? What would be the first question you'd ask if you have a half a brain in your head? What do they look like? So how are we saying that we're going after success? We don't even know what it looks like. So map out and visualize, and this is a day-to-day thing. You want to do this on a regular basis. Every single day, you run through this exercise. You visualize and you map out exactly what it looks like. Because really life's about decisions. The decisions that you make determine the road that you take. And the better you are at making decisions, the better your life will be. If you show me somebody in a bad situation, I'm going to show you somebody who makes bad decisions. Okay? I always say you can't get rich making poor choices. So think about that. Every day, where are you going? What are you doing? What are you going after? Why are you even here? Do you think you're going to come here and hear something miraculous that's going to change your life? Because again, I get accused a lot of changing people's lives. And I'm flattered by it, but I always got to be honest. I don't change anybody's life. Only they do. And that's the thing I want you guys to take away. You're the one that you need to freaking fall in love with. You're the one that needs to go do the work and the practice. You're the one looking back at you in that bathroom in the mirror. And I want you to understand that completely, so when you walk out of here, you realize the one person that you need to build a relationship with is you. You have to love you. And these steps help me do it. Now, the sixth and final step that I started doing, believe it or not, around 42 years old, like a dumbass, was I started reading. I started seeking information on a daily basis. Because if you think about it, this is just a computer. This is just think of it like a computer, a database. Do you think a computer is worth more when you feed it information or worth less? It's worth more. So everybody should be out seeking information on a daily basis, reading like it's going out of style. Okay, because if you want to change what you're getting, you have to change what you're doing. You agree? You can't keep doing the same thing expecting a different result. So in order to change what you're getting, you have to change what you're doing. In order to change what you're doing, you have to change your belief. Because the reason you do what you do is because you believe what you believe. And again, I don't know who the oldest person in the audience is, but I'll bet you anything, if you get all the elders in the room, they're all going to agree. You cannot possibly believe that you're going to change a result that you're getting unless you change something about it. There's a lot of people that think, I just need to work harder. Folks, working harder is simply going to get you more of what you're getting. It's not going to get you something different. If you take a lined piece of paper and you write my name on, let's say, the third line, and you write your name on the 24th line, and you press the gas, you're just going to be farther out on that 24th line. You're never, ever going to be where I'm at. You have to change the line you're on to get on that same level. And in order to do that, you have to change what you're doing. And in order to change what you're doing, you have to change what you believe. Because the reason we do what we do is because we believe what we believe. For whatever reason, whether it's true or not. Some people were called ugly. Some people were called fat. Some people were called all these different things. In our programming over life limits us and gets us to believe, whether it's true or not, those limitations. And so I broke free of those by reading and seeking new information. And what happened was I formed new beliefs. And the new beliefs allowed me to make different actions, because you have to take action. If you don't take action, nothing happens. So you got to get up every single day and seek new information. The new information that you put in your brain, in your mind, is going to cause your beliefs to change. And that's going to ultimately allow you to change your actions, which change your beliefs. And, I think it goes without saying you got to take action, right? Everybody knows you got to take action. So if I were to say, for example, I don't know how much this is. Who wants like 1,500 of these? Who does? There you go. See what I'm talking about? Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Hey, my pleasure. Hey, but you didn't take action fast enough. See what I'm talking about, folks? You got to take action. He didn't just say he wanted it. He ran up and got it. How much did I just give away? How much was that? Is that a lot? No, because my wife gave it to me this morning. It's funny because, again, I had a viral video go pretty viral one time, and all I said was I have a magic floor. I said it's the craziest thing. I can go home, and I can take my shirt off and throw it on the floor, and somehow it ends up back in my closet, hung up. It's the craziest thing. It's a magic floor. And somebody said, well, that's just your wife. And then I started to get hate, that I shouldn't say that about my wife. And I said, don't worry, she's got a magic purse. Anyway, so folks, you got to seek information on a regular basis. It's so important that you read. Now, again, listening to a podcast, especially mine, Dropping Bombs, if you ever heard of it, give it a listen. It's all entrepreneurial stuff. I'm walking through, experiences from people, so make sure you listen to that one if you're an entrepreneur. Sales, life, business. But ultimately, getting that information on a regular basis is what literally started to change my life, because it started to change my beliefs, and then I could change my actions. And whenever you can change your actions, that's when your results start to change. So ultimately, I was about 30 years old. I was trying my best to make money, get rich. I could never break $500,000 a year. Now in sales, you can make good $200,000, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year, maybe even $600,000 a year. And so one day, there's a kid in the back, Mexican dude. We called him Chili Willie. And Chili Willie was one of the best dudes I've ever known. He'd come to work. His wife would come in, very timid, very shy. His kids would come in, very timid, very shy. And I started to get to know him a little bit, and I realized, he didn't have much money. He was working for minimum wage, and he was busting his ass, just like my dad and my whole family told me to do. And I said, listen, man, let me help you. Let me bring you out here and start selling. Let me teach you how to close. Let me teach you how to persuade. Let me teach you how to convince people to make decisions. And he said, oh, no, I can't do that. That same limited mindset that kills me, because so many people have it. And I said, no, bro. And I closed him on letting me teach him. So he came to work the next day, and he had a suit on. And by the way, he was the guy that washes the cars and, fills up the gas, and hardest working guy there, but minimum wage. And if you really think about that, who is the hardest working people out there? It's not the rich ones. So if you're out there working hard and you want to be rich, you realize those don't go together, correct? The hardest working people are paid the least. Who's paying those people? The rich ones. So you think, man, I just got to work hard. That's all I got to do. That's not all you have to do. In fact, again, I understand when people say work hard, put time in, focus. That, yes, you want to work hard. But work hard with your back, work hard with a shovel, it's not the answer. So I took this kid and I brought him up front and I taught him how to sell, close, and persuade. He went from minimum wage to about $15,000 to $20,000 a month within 2 months. I watched his whole life change. It's amazing what a little bit of money can do. And I watched his wife start walking in a little bit happier. And I watched his kids walk in with a little more pep in their step. It was amazing. And I thought, man, that feels amazing. I felt like, it was almost weird, but I felt like really good. And I thought to myself, now keep in mind, this whole time I was trying to get rich, and everything was about me. That's all I wanted. If I sold you something, it was so I could make a commission. If I sold you something, it was because I was a salesperson. I was proud, one of the best salespeople on planet Earth. I could close anybody on anything. But my intention, my energy that I was giving off at the time was in reality greed. I was trying to close you so I could pay rent, so I could feed my kids. I didn't care about you or your kids. I just wanted to make a commission. So after I helped this guy, it felt so good. I thought to myself, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to start a training company so I can go out and help other people make more money. I wanted to chase that feeling. So I quit my job and I started a training company called Lightspeed VT. That was 24 years ago. I went out on the road and I started trying to train people. And I started trying to do the same thing, and I very quickly realized it wasn't working. And I'm like, there's something wrong here. This isn't working. I couldn't figure it out. So I decided to go back and kind of look at what I was doing before, and I discovered 4 things that are required for actual training. So if you guys have employees and you think you're training them, make sure you're doing these 4 things or it's not training. Okay? Number 1, you have to have good content. Then you have to have repetition. Then you have to have practice. Then you have to have accountability. So if those 4 things are not involved in your training, it's not training. You're simply exposing people to information. And I'm pretty sure exposure in Dubai will get you arrested. Okay, you don't want to do that. You want to actually train people. Give them the information, the good content. then the repetition, then practice, then accountability. So once I discovered, man, I used to do those things without even knowing it because I worked there. I gave this kid repetition. I gave him practice. I held him accountable. I showed up every day. It was over and over and over. But now I'm out training people like this, and I couldn't do it because after I was done, I left. And I thought, man, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to get the impact I'm looking for. So I decided to start an interactive online training software to allow me to deliver good content with repetition, practice, and accountability. And when I invented that software, because it did not exist, there was nobody training online. This was back in 1999, 2000, where there wasn't any online training. Okay, the internet just came out. So ultimately, I create this software, and I put my training in it, and I started selling it to companies for about $1,200 a month. They could log in and train all their people. I don't care if there's thousands of people. They could train them, which, by the way, led me here in 2008. I was in Dubai in 2008. There was only that Burj Khalifa was like not even fully built, I don't think. When was that thing built? 2010? Yeah, it was just getting built, and I was here, and it didn't look like this, by the way. Whoever is control of this country or this area, unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is unbelievable. Yeah, unbelievable. And they told me back then, they're going to try to make this the Mecca, the place everybody wants to come. And I'm like, dude, there's nothing really here except for a few buildings. There were some camels and like owls and shit out in the desert. We went out there, but there wasn't really much here. And they said this is going to be some big grandiose thing. See, somebody had a vision. Somebody saw this before any of it took place. Somebody had to take action or we wouldn't be here today. But that software brought me here. I closed a company called Al Nabuda Construction. Has anyone heard of that here? Yeah? No? Al Nabuda Construction. And so that software is what basically ended up making me rich. Which again, I'm not necessarily rich, especially here, but that's what made me successful. It started making me successful. And ultimately, that software led me down the path I'm talking about. And I realized, looking back, again, I didn't realize any of this moving forward. Folks, when I started getting successful was when I stopped worrying about myself and started worrying about others. If you truly want to succeed in life, and it's not just financially, look to help other people. Look to solve problems. People don't buy products and services. They buy solutions to their problem. So all you have to do is go look for problems and solve them. People will pay you to solve their problems. You wake up, you run from problems. You avoid problems. Nobody wants a problem. That's where I differed. I looked for problems, and I started solving problems, and I just got really addicted to helping other people, and the more people I helped, the more money I made. And the next thing you know, I look in the bank account, and there's a couple $1 million in there. And I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even do anything. I'm just out helping people. I'm enjoying myself. It was fun. That's when everything changed. When I started helping other people. It sounds cliche. How many people have heard that before, There's a guy named Zig Ziglar. The best way to get what you want is to help others get what they want. I'm thinking, well, how's that going to help me? Now I understand. It was amazing. But that's what ultimately kicked me off. And then the final thing that happened, because that took me 20 years to build that company into a multi-million-dollar company. I started working with Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone and Zig Ziglar and all these big names in the United States, okay? And I started listening to them and reading their books and watching what they did. And then ultimately, social media came out. And I watched these guys post their videos. And then ultimately, they built what's called a personal brand. And that's when I decided I'm going to build a personal brand. And so I knew exactly how to do it. And I'm going to share with you guys in my last minute exactly what I did so you can do it too. Because everybody here, believe it or not, has a television station right here in their hand. This right here can make you financially free. And financially free, as I think, partially, at least my combination, is crucial. Because folks, they say money's not important. The only people that say that are the ones that don't have it. Okay, money is important. It's not the end all be all, but you definitely, trust me, I've been rich and I've been broke, and I'll take rich every single time. You've heard that before. I'm not convincing anybody. But what made it happen was social media. A personal brand that I've built. Now I've got millions of followers. I can launch a business just like this. I can drive business to your business like you wouldn't believe. People pay me just to use this social media to drive their business. And here's the key. Every single one of you guys can do this, okay? Stop trying to create content and start to be the content, okay? There's people out there and they'll put their foot up and they'll get their best outfit on and they'll, take pictures looking all Vogue and shit with a little quote that's not even theirs next to them. And they'll think that's content. And then other people, they got better content, but they still have to make it. And quite frankly, it takes a lot of time, does it not? To make that content takes a lot of time, energy, and effort. So one time I had a guy come into my office and he says, time to make content, because I was trying to do it just like everybody else was. And finally I looked at him and I said, listen, bro, just turn the camera on. I am the content. And then I went back to work and I started talking to an employee, and then I got a call from a customer and I started just doing what I did. And they were filming it, and I didn't even realize that they were filming me, being me, doing what I did every single day. And the next thing you know, my content folders filled up. Before, I couldn't get enough content to post. And then my content folders started filling up because I was just doing what I did. Now, when I talk to people and I say, you got to be the content, some people are like, well, I don't do anything. There's your problem. You're not doing anything. If you have to, call an ex-girlfriend and argue. Do something. Like, you literally have to get up and do something. But whatever it is you do, whether you're in real estate or whether you're in sales or whether you're a freaking, chef or a housewife or whatever it is you do, be you. Because authenticity is the highest frequency that you can receive, even above love. Authenticity. Now ask yourself, are you truly being you? And are you willing to film it and put it out on social media? Because that's all you have to do. And if you start today, it's still going to take a year or two. Some of you might get lucky, but it might take a year or two. And then you're going to get a whole bunch of followers. It's worked every time I've showed it to multiple people. But you have to start being you and then post 3 to 4 times a day on all 6 main channels. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Okay, every single one of those, post 3 to 4 videos every single day, being unapologetically you. Don't worry about what you're posting. Just post. It's quantity, not quality. You think, well, no one's going to like that. That's your mindset. Go fix your mindset. There are people that love you, and if you're too worried about the hate, you'll never find the love. Okay? Be unapologetically you and go out there and freaking get what's yours, because God wanted you to have it. My name's Brad. Thank you for letting me talk.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the one, the only Brad Lee.